For nearly 4 years, the world has watched the conflict in Ukraine with a heavy heart. Every day, headlines have brought stories of loss, resilience, and uncertainty into living rooms across the globe. The war has become a constant presence, shaping conversations and casting a shadow over hopes for a peaceful future. The war, which began with a full-scale invasion in February 2022, has caused immense suffering and reshaped international relations. Cities once bustling with life now bear scars of destruction, and the world's political landscape has shifted as nations have taken sides, imposed sanctions, and debated the best path forward. The conflict has tested alliances and forced difficult choices on leaders everywhere. Millions have been displaced, and the human cost grows daily. Families have been torn apart, children forced to flee their homes, and entire communities uprooted. Humanitarian organizations have worked tirelessly to provide food, shelter, and hope, but the scale of the crisis has often overwhelmed even the most dedicated efforts. Yet, even in the darkest times, the desire for peace endures. Across continents, people have gathered in vigils, marched in rallies, and sent messages of solidarity to those affected. The longing for an end to violence and a return to normal life is a powerful force, uniting strangers in hope and determination. Today, December 20th, 2025, a flicker of hope appears in Florida, where U.S. and Russian officials gather for crucial talks. The world's attention turns to this unlikely setting, where palm trees and ocean breezes contrast sharply with the grim realities of war. Security is tight, and anticipation is high as diplomats arrive, aware that their actions could shape the future for millions. Their goal: to find a path toward ending the devastating war in Ukraine. Around the negotiation table, every word and gesture carries enormous weight. The stakes are nothing less than the lives and futures of countless people, and the possibility of a new chapter in international relations. The very fact these discussions are happening offers a rare moment of cautious optimism. Journalists from around the world have gathered, eager to report any sign of progress. For many, this meeting represents the first real chance in years for dialogue to replace violence and for hope to take root where despair has long prevailed. As officials meet under the Florida sun, they carry the weight of global expectations and the hopes of millions desperate for good news. The world waits, holding its breath, for a sign that peace is possible, and that even in the longest, darkest wars, a glimmer of hope can still shine through. The talks bring together an unusual mix of diplomats and business figures, signaling a new approach. Representing the U.S. are Jared Kushner and real estate tycoon Steve Witkoff, both closely tied to former President Trump. Their backgrounds suggest a focus on practical, transactional negotiations. Marco Rubio, Trump's top diplomat, adds a traditional foreign policy perspective. Russia's delegation is led by Kirill Dmitriev, Putin's special envoy and head of Russia's sovereign wealth fund. Dmitriev's presence signals Moscow's focus on strategic interests. Notably, Ukraine is not at the table, but its top negotiator, Rustem Umerov, met with U.S. and European partners the day before to align strategies. The U.S. acts as intermediary, relaying messages between adversaries unwilling to meet face-to-face. Florida's private, informal setting has become an unlikely stage for some of the world's most delicate diplomatic conversations. Far from the bustling capitals and the glare of international media, these secluded estates offer a sense of calm and discretion that is hard to find elsewhere. Here, leaders and negotiators can step away from the rigid protocols and formalities that often define official summits. This marks a significant departure from the traditional venues of diplomacy: grand government buildings, imposing conference halls, and heavily guarded embassies. In contrast, the relaxed atmosphere of Florida's estates encourages a different kind of conversation, one that is more candid and, at times, more productive. Previous rounds of these sensitive talks have unfolded at Steve Witkoff's exclusive golf club, a place known for its privacy and luxury. The tranquil greens and quiet lounges have provided a unique backdrop, fostering a more open dialogue between parties who might otherwise be adversaries. This back-channel approach is designed to build trust, allowing negotiators to explore sensitive possibilities away from the pressures of public scrutiny. In these informal settings, participants can speak more freely, test new ideas, and address difficult topics that might be off-limits in official forums. These meetings are not isolated incidents, but rather part of a sustained and carefully coordinated diplomatic effort. Over months, and sometimes years, officials have met repeatedly, each session building on the last, in hopes of finding common ground. Progress has been slow and fragile, with every step forward requiring extensive coordination, late-night discussions, and a willingness to compromise. The stakes are high, and the risks of miscommunication or misunderstanding are ever present. To ensure unity and clarity, the U.S. team has held separate meetings with both Ukrainian and European allies. These side discussions are crucial for aligning strategies and making sure that Kyiv's non-negotiable positions are fully understood and respected by all parties involved. Yet, a major obstacle remains. Russian and Ukrainian delegations continue to refuse direct talks in this format. The deep mistrust and animosity between the two sides make even the prospect of sitting at the same table a challenge. In this tense environment, the U.S. serves as the essential bridge, shuttling messages, clarifying intentions, and working tirelessly to keep the lines of communication open. American diplomats must navigate a landscape shaped by suspicion, history, and the ever-present risk of escalation. For these talks to succeed, they must overcome this fundamental divide. Only by building trust, step by painstaking step, can any real progress be made toward peace.
Ukraine's core principle is clear: sovereignty and territorial integrity are non-negotiable. After years of war, ceding territory is seen as an unacceptable betrayal. The government refuses to surrender the four regions Russia claims: Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia. These lands remain, in Ukraine's eyes, sovereign territory. Any peace deal requiring their loss is a non-starter for President Zelensky and the Ukrainian public. On NATO, Ukraine has shown some flexibility, willing to discuss neutrality in exchange for robust, legally binding security guarantees. Kyiv insists any deal must include powerful enforcement mechanisms to prevent future attacks. For Ukraine, peace cannot come at the cost of future security or independence.
Russia's demands remain unchanged. Ukraine must recognize Russian sovereignty over Crimea and the four annexed regions. For Moscow, these territories are now Russian land, non-negotiable. Russia also insists Ukraine abandon its NATO ambitions and adopt permanent neutrality. The Kremlin frames these as essential for regional stability and its own security.
U.S. intelligence suggests Putin's ambitions may go further, aiming for total control of Ukraine. This casts doubt on Russia's intentions. Are the talks genuine or a tactical pause? The negotiations must grapple with these stark, opposing visions. The United States has long played a unique role on the world stage, often stepping in as a mediator when direct dialogue between nations breaks down. In the current crisis, the U.S. acts as a crucial go-between, shuttling tirelessly between Ukrainian and Russian positions, carrying messages, proposals, and counteroffers. This role is not just about logistics. It's about building trust, managing tensions, and keeping the door open for peace, even when hope seems faint. With both sides refusing direct talks, the American team, led by Kushner and Witkoff, must walk a diplomatic tightrope. They are tasked with providing steadfast support for Ukraine's sovereignty and security, while also maintaining open channels of communication with Russia. Every conversation is carefully calibrated, every word weighed, as the team seeks to prevent misunderstandings and keep negotiations alive.
This shuttle diplomacy is fraught with challenges. Building trust with both parties is a delicate process, requiring patience, cultural sensitivity, and a deep understanding of each side's fears and ambitions. The American mediators must constantly adapt, responding to shifting dynamics and unexpected setbacks. The U.S. cannot force a deal. The ultimate decision rests with Ukraine and Russia. American diplomats can only facilitate, encourage, and propose solutions, but the final agreement must come from the parties themselves.
The American goal is pragmatic: to find a solution that brings lasting stability to the region. Ideally, this would mean a comprehensive settlement, but even a temporary ceasefire to halt the fighting and save lives would be a meaningful step forward.
The hope is for a breakthrough before year's end, but the path is full of obstacles. Each day brings new complications: political pressures at home, shifting alliances abroad, and the ever-present risk of escalation. Beyond the negotiating tables, the human cost of the conflict is immense. Millions have been displaced, families separated, and communities shattered. The urgency to end the suffering drives every diplomatic effort. the US seeks not only to restore stability in Europe, but also to help end the immense human suffering caused by the war. Humanitarian aid, support for refugees, and rebuilding efforts are all part of America's broader commitment. Even limited progress, such as a pause in hostilities or a framework for future talks, would be significant. Each small step forward can lay the groundwork for a more lasting peace. Around the globe, people watch and wait, hoping that these efforts will mark a turning point, one that brings hope, relief, and a path toward reconciliation.
The indirect nature of the Florida talks adds complexity and risk. Every message must be relayed through the U.S. team, slowing discussions and increasing the chance of miscommunication.
The mediator's role is demanding. Accuracy is critical, as a single misstep could derail the fragile process.
The refusal to meet face-to-face reflects the deep animosity and political gulf between Kiev and Moscow. Yet, this format allows both sides to engage without making major political concessions.
The U.S. also acts as a buffer, absorbing tension and guiding the conversation toward productive ground. In this way, indirect talks may offer a safer space for difficult dialogue.
The timing of these talks is critical, as the war nears its 4-year mark. Both nations are exhausted, militarily, economically, and socially.
For Ukraine, peace is essential for survival and rebuilding. For Russia, ending the war could stabilize its economy and allow a shift to domestic priorities.
The conflict has fueled global instability, disrupted markets, and strained alliances. A resolution would relieve international pressure and allow focus on other challenges.
As the year ends, hope grows that Florida could offer a path to peace. The stakes could not be higher.
As the Florida talks conclude, the world waits for answers. The best-case scenario, a comprehensive peace plan addressing territory, neutrality, and security guarantees. More likely is a limited agreement, a ceasefire or humanitarian measures to reduce tensions. But the risk of stalemate remains high, as core demands remain fundamentally opposed. Even without a deal, dialogue clarifies red lines and keeps communication open. Official statements from all sides will soon reveal whether progress was made. For now, the world can only hope these talks have planted the seeds of peace. The chance to end one of the century's most tragic conflicts may rest on what happens next.